Okay, sorry. So in the Anthropocene, the era we live in now, humans are the newest, most powerful geologic agents transforming the planet. How did this happen? We acquired this power, ironically enough, during one of the greatest eras of human existence on the planet, in the Enlightenment, when we learned I think the 5 most famous words that describe humans. I think, therefore I am, by Descartes. We acquired freedom to think during the Enlightenment. We weren't imprisoned by superstition, other kinds of powers. What happened during the Anthropocene is we realized that there are ecological limits to human affairs. There's an ecological limit to the temperature of the planet. That's an ecological affair. And we are tampering with that limit. Just like we tamper with the poisoning of soils, the poisoning of the air. These are all ecological limits, the extinction of organisms. In the Anthropocene, the histories of natural capital, all of the biodiversity out there that we use for fuel and food and fiber and pharmaceutical products, all of the natural stuff out on the planet, the plants and animals and microbes, the history of this natural capital and material capital, what we make of it, what we build, they're actually one and the same. No matter the society that produced them, no matter the ideology that was driving them. So in the Anthropocene, humans are the new God. We are the new God. We transformed the planet more than God ever did. And we've been doing so for at least the last 300 years. On a major, major scale. And I put God in quotes, of course. We transform the shape, the constituency, and life on Earth like no other force. So science alone can't deal with this. We need to combine science with art and the humanities and turn 5,000 years of knowledge into solutions. And we have a lot of knowledge. This is just one broadcast from the BBC, all of this knowledge and data. Multiply that by 10 zillion. And why do we want to do that? You've seen this before. Because we want to sustain nations and we want to sustain the planet. And without this knowledge and applying it smartly, we won't do it. So how did nature prime culture? It gave us high and low belief. And here's where I hope you won't get too angry with me. The usual terms we use are faith and reason. But I'm going to call it high and low belief. Okay? Because those are less value-laden than faith and reason. What is high belief? This is the peaceable kingdom. High belief is culturally adaptive. It supports group social values, cohesiveness, and survival. Many of you in here have wonderful high beliefs. They range from the trivial, like Friday the 13th is bad, to religious beliefs, to belief in the supernatural. For example, a famous one used to be, clouds are gathered by Zeus. In high belief, the damned are cast into hell. High beliefs are formed without experience. They're usually false. They're derived from anecdote, stories, myths. They're not subject to empirical verification. They're only held by organisms capable of representational and abstract thought, namely one species on Earth, Homo sapiens. That's it. There is no other species on Earth that has high beliefs. Whales don't, dolphins don't, worms don't, insects don't, chimps don't, gorillas don't. High beliefs are that, this comes from Baldwin College, it's a wonderful saying, nature's laws are God's thoughts. Okay? We believe that. High belief demands that reverence, respect, preserve, and sustain God's thoughts. In other words, that they respect, preserve, and sustain nature's laws discovered by low belief, science. High belief, on the other hand, religion in this case has done no service when the claimed word of God is made to look stupid. As in this letter from the Archbishop of New Orleans to a fellow, Mr. Jim Pikulas. And I'm going to blow this up. He's answering Mr. Mikulas's question about, is an alligator acceptable to eat during the Lenten season? And the answer is, thank you very much for your letter of February 24th, 2010, concerning the question if an alligator is acceptable to eat during the Lenten season. Yes, the alligator is considered in the fish family. Really? Last time I looked at a biology textbook, alligator was a reptile, not a fish. And I agree with you. God has created a magnificent creature that is important to the state of Louisiana, and it is considered seafood. Really? Really? Okay. So let me turn to low belief. This is Vermeer's The Geographer. Low belief occurred when natural philosophy and science displaced high beliefs during the Enlightenment, precisely at the time that humans acquired freedom of thought from superstition. In low belief, it's formed by empiricism, by experiment, by observation, by experience. It's replicatable. It's testable. Low beliefs can be held by any organism. Not just humans. Can be held by gorillas and chimps. And they do. They learn. Low beliefs are an evolutionary adaptation for survival in the habitat in which the organism is living. It's the basis of science. Clouds are not gathered by Zeus. Clouds are made of water vapor. In low belief, by the way, this was done by a Lawrence artist. It's in the Spencer Museum. In low belief, data, you get data, you model it in your head, you analyze it, and you produce a story, a narrative, a result. And you test that result again and again in everyday experiences. It's the structure of thought. That's low belief. Okay. My thesis today is that we have to combine high belief and low belief if we're going to solve the problems of the planet, sustaining it well into the future, and preserving the life support systems. Why? Well, I'm going to give you a very short picture of what we're facing down the road. And how will we deal with it? If humans are God, just think about this whole concept of now humans being the new God. We're We're talking about the immanent human design space. Designing humans. Which God did, according to believers, certainly in Genesis. Let's start with genetic engineering. We will engineer humans to be genetically modified organisms. The tomatoes that went to make your pasta sauce today, that's a genetically modified tomato. The bread that made, the wheat that made your bread, genetically modified wheat. The corn that made the sugar was genetically modified corn. We've been doing this in agriculture and now using genetics for many, many years. We are also going to now genetically modify humans to produce the kind of body that parents want for their children. You want an athlete? Modify it. You want blonde hair, blue hair, green eyes, long fingers, short fingers. What do you want? You want male, female, one in between? Okay. We can modify the genes. Bodies by menu. And if you think that's not coming or the government can legislate against it, forget it. They already have. It doesn't matter. Lots of private companies doing it. To control lifespans, your children, and your physique. What else in the human design space? This is a bacterium. A bacterium that was synthesized in a laboratory. The bioengineering and the synthesis of brand new life forms, the new genesis, being done in the laboratory. Organisms by menu, designing new forms of life. Some of it will be beneficial for pharmaceutical purposes. You won't take pills anymore or antibiotics. You're going to be swallowing bacteria to cure a disease, to change the genes in your body that are causing the disease, or at least give you a predilection for that disease. But of course, there are also the dark side in uses of those kinds of new organisms. What about the brain? Neuroengineering. We have a new neuroengineering institute at KU Med, doing wonderful work, studying all sorts of mental illnesses, brain development, and so on, in order to cure disease. But along with that, we will be engineering brains by menu. What kind of brain do you want? What kind of brain do you want your children to have? Can we change the brains we have now by genetic manipulation? By designing our mind, our thought, our consciousness. Do you want to think like Einstein, or do you want to think like Beethoven? Maybe you want to think like Madonna. God help you. I want to think like Rodney Dangerfield. What about data and freedom in this world? In this world, right now. Right now. We have essentially outsourced our thoughts to machines. That machine right there. When it does analyses, we have outsourced our thoughts to those machines. They do the work for us now. Decisions are being relegated to silicon chips and algorithms designed by somebody else. Do you trust them? Are they completely neutral? Do those people designing algorithms and chips have no unconscious biases that is somehow affecting the design of the chips and the algorithms? I don't think so. It doesn't apply to any other part of life. Okay. But all that power is taken away from us. So in this Anthropocene, where we are now the new God, what is our sense of place and purpose in the universe? Is it to be God? How does high and low belief help us here? Well, I only have one very simple conclusion. What is the meaning of life? This guy asked this guy. And this is the all-famous soothsayer. And his answer is, I don't know. The computers are there. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah, given man's propensity to exploit for his own use every known species, why is it important to discover new species that can be further exploited?
That's a very good question.
Could you frame your answer so that it includes the question?
I will repeat the question. The question is a really good cynical one, and that is, why do you want to discover more species of animals and plants if humans have done nothing but exploit those animals and plants, and you're just going to provide more for them to exploit? Is that a fair summary?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know, I don't think there's anything we do on this earth that doesn't have this dialectic of good versus evil. Many plants and animals have been used for terrific purposes. The domestication of plants for all of our fiber, the domestication and discovery of terrific antibiotics in plants, for penicillin and so many other antibiotics, naturally occurring chemistry. The domestication of so many of our animals and plants for food, and of course the use of natural resources for the energy that we require. So those are all on the good side. There is some exploitation that is terrible, that is awful. And our job is to, not to, in my opinion, our job is to be smart about how we exploit nature. We can exploit nature in a sustainable way. I don't think the solution is, let's put this stop on discovering any more about nature so that we can't exploit it. I'd rather discover much more about nature so we can exploit it smartly and sustainably. Yes, sir.
What's your thoughts about why certain certain aspects of our society, certain groups of our society, have such a struggle accepting science or accepting empirical outcomes of scientific efforts, who simply reject them out of hand? What is that struggle all about in your opinion?
The question is, why do certain groups in our society have such a difficult time accepting what I call low belief science and its findings? You know, a lot of people have examined that question. I think a lot of it is due to, I mean, there are going to be the standard answers. Level of education. That's certainly prime. The more educated somebody is, the more they are likely to have critical thinking and analyze anything that they have been taught, including everything they were taught in that education. That education has taught them about the world and has taught them to, we hope, think critically. I mean, I raised two wonderful kids. When they were little kids, and as soon as they could understand language, I had a mantra for each one of them. Be smart, question authority, and kick ass. If an education teaches us that, then we'll be a much better society. So education is certainly one big answer. If people, the less educated people on the whole, not in general, and there are many exceptions, are more likely to mistrust, not believe, have no trust in science and its discoveries, because they would rather accept a much simpler story that has much less complexity, in which it's kind of, let's see, what can I call it? I'll call it knowledge welfare, where everything is attributed to a very simple cause. The clouds are gathered by Zeus. That's a lot easier to accept, much so, than understanding all the complexities of water vapor and how it gathers and weather systems and that forms the clouds. Same thing with disease. Disease, you know, the old theories of disease about bacteria spread by the devil, or the bad smell hypothesis. Even after Leeuwenhoek discovered, you know, bacteria with a microscope. Because these are simpler, less complex, simplistic explanations. You're being, basically, there is a higher power taking care of you. And the second big reason is a lot of what science discovers is not popular. It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable to have discovered that, you know, we are just one species among now 1.8 million, 2 million on Earth that have not been created specially. It goes against our arrogance. We want to be special. We are special because we are the only ones, the only species on Earth with the brains and the consciousness to steward the planet. We've inherited that contract. We're very special. But we're not special in the sense of separate creation. And that is very uncomfortable for a lot of people because of arrogance, egoism, so forth. And so high belief has a huge power. Why do people still believe in astrology and follow that nonsense? Or, you know, Friday the 13th, or black cats, or any one of a number. I mean, without any disrespect to the people of Liberia, but look what they did. Look what some of the inhabitants of Liberia did to the health workers who were trying to help them not get Ebola. They rather believed their, their cultural beliefs, their high beliefs about how to deal with a dead person. And that was more important. Yes, sir.
I remember attending a science and religion symposium in St. Louis at Eden Theological Seminary, and a professor from Penn State University gave us a phrase